Speaking of Stanley, what's going on with Morgan Stanley, man? How's the job?
It's going well. It's going well. Settling into the constraints of, certain things I can't do like I used to do. Like, I can't even short stocks anymore. I was like, yo,
Wow.
like,
What about options? What about options?
I can do options, but it's just like they want you to own a security for 30 days.
Right.
Like I just keep telling myself, you do what you have to now. Let's do what you want to later. This is just the last stop. This is the last my last stop on a tour to where the plan is on. The plan's been going, how I planned it for the last few years, so I'm not going to complain.
On the lowest of keys, I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, because I've been watching the Tyler Perry stuff. If you kind of take it deeper than Instagram, there's a lot of really good content on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they were talking about, aside from like all the other really cool things he's done with hiring Black folks and putting them in position to thrive and all that stuff, reviving careers, putting people on who were like kind of close but not really there, like Kerry Williams, those kind of people.
Right.
What he did is he created his own Walk of Fame, and I was like, that is dope. Like,
I didn't know that. Like on the plot of his studio.
Right. So on the studio in front of like the Oprah Winfrey studio, like soundstage, is a star for each one of the people that have done business with him, like his original cast. And I thought that was fire because for me, it's not even about the star. It's the fact like you got to put yourself on. You got to create something that doesn't just. It's not just about Tyler Perry. It's not just about Jamaal. It's not just about me. It's not just about Raphael. It's about everybody else that we could put on. And so like that's why, yeah. So
it's the collaborative effort, and say what you want about Perry and people who always, like you said, like his entire career can be based about how he pulled himself up and pulled other people up. Like, who heard of those people who were in his like sitcoms or plays before he gave them a job?
Right.
Like before he gave, like what was the lady name who played in the first Tyler Perry Diary of a Mad Black Woman? What was it?
The old lady?
Kimberly Elise.
I don't know her.
Like she was almost she played in John Q with Denzel Washington.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean. Yeah. The one that played the wife or
right,
whatever.
Exactly. And
the one that was abused, the one that was getting abused.
Yeah. So that speaks like that is a blueprint of that. That's like Black Wall Street reinvented in the 20th century. Like that's what it is. Like
what's really dope is I saw something, I don't know who posted it, but they said that his studio, the size of his studio was double the size of the Warner Brothers studio. And too often we put all these other people up on pedestals. We're like, oh, they're Warner Brothers. They're 21st Century Fox. They're this, they're that. And like, if we truly believe in our greatness and not what people say about what we can do, we could do stuff far surpassing what these motherfuckers do. Like, that is why it's just, I think people need to really grasp that because we are underachieving on a national scale. And it's not because we should be. It's because we don't know any better.
It's that whitewash mentality. It's like I had to say that certain Black people are still in that Jim Crow civil rights mentality, and by that I mean they were brainwashed to think that white was better because we lacked access, because they wouldn't let us in the restaurants, because we couldn't go and sit at the counter, because we couldn't shop at Macy's. All of a sudden, those were better. Those are exclusive. But now that we have the right, think about it. I see this all the time because most people don't know that I have a car, but I don't drive downtown because it's just too expensive, and I live so close to the commute is just better to take public transportation. But what do Black people do? The first thing they do to get on the bus, go to the back. You fought all right.
I've always thought about that.
Yo, they go straight to the back. Why? Because
the very last seat,
right.
Too.
But you fought so you can sit up the front because the white man told you that was a privilege. But you go straight to the back of the bus. Why? Because you've made that the cool scene. You've made that where people want to be. But we haven't done that in other other spaces such as business and production and all that. We still think the big names, like I like to say, the white conglomerates are better. But I'm waiting for these black conglomerates like Tyler Perry to get on and buy other black companies and make that the place to be, where it should be what the HBCUs used to be for black people, the preference and not the secondary.
Right. Some crazy stuff is we all talk about Flint and we talk about like, oh, they poisoned them with the water, but it's the same dudes that make your food. It's the same dudes that make your water in other cities. Like these dudes are connected. And when I heard somebody, I've been listening to a lot of David Banner, and he made that connection and my mind was like blown. Like, people don't realize, like, because he said his goal is to buy a farm. Like, he wants to produce the food that people consume. And we don't realize, like, we're letting them feed us. So, therefore, we're letting them determine what goes inside of our body. We don't know what goes in there. We don't know what those chemicals are. We don't know what that stuff means on the back of the package. And we're letting them educate us, feed us, clothe us, give us music, give us entertainment. And if you can kind of determine what goes in somebody, you can kind of determine what goes out of them. So, it's
kind of what you always when you're always talking about services. The reason that we don't know what goes in our food is because farming isn't sexy. Nobody's gonna write a article about Charles Oglesby's the farmer from California. It just doesn't roll off the tongue the same way. But that quiet money sometimes is the best money.
Right.
You don't always.
It's kind of like.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's kind of like from one of Charles's favorite books, The Miseducation of the Negro, when he talks about how black folks go to college and learn all these fancy subjects like business and all this stuff, but they don't want to do the simple businesses that don't seem sexy, like you're saying.
Right.
Nobody wants to have a corner store.
Right.
Maybe they might like a supermarket, but they're not gonna do a corner store. Yep. Nobody wants to buy nobody wants to go to college and then come and open a hot dog cart.
I'm telling you. And that's the crazy part about it. I love that quote. And what he's talking about is how like people will chase kind of like this Wall Street stuff and they'll turn their nose up to like push a peanut cart or push an ice wagon or sell peanuts in their own community. Meanwhile, the immigrant who doesn't study finance but studies the Negro sets up a business in the Negro's community and gets rich.
We realize that we all. I kind of think about the black community is lacking that thing where the Bible always talking about that we all have special gifts and we can't work the body can't work independently of each other. The black community is working independently of each other. Some of us are getting, a lot of us, us included, we're getting the message that, meetups and community and networking works, but a vast majority of us are still trying to be the hand over here working independently of the wrist and the elbow. Like you're trying to build, you're trying to build those fancy businesses when your community really needs you to be that corner store owner. Right. And that vacant house and the end of the block that's been vacant for 20 years.
I'm turning a vacant home into a business.
They need you to be the one who sells the milk and bread together for $3.69 instead of buying it for $7.
The crazy part about it is the more time that we let pass and we don't do those things, the more wealth we let slip through our fingers. Mm-hmm. We always want to chase the sexy business. We want to chase that new app, that new whatever. But quite honestly, we aren't even qualified to even do that sexy tech stuff until we can at least own the businesses in our community at a foundational level. Like, wealth is abundant. Wealth isn't just like I own the store and now I'm done. Like, you gotta own the store and then let's start building some cool stuff on top of that store. And so we got
not even that. The cool stuff will come. Like, if you're the business owner, the black business owner that builds the corner store, some kid will see your business and be like, "Oh, Mr. Washington, I wonder if he needs an app. Let me learn how to code so I can give him my service, or he'll let me do that for free so I can build my portfolio." We inspire each other to do more extraordinary things. One block builds on another.
Facts.
Right. So, for the listening audience, welcome to Tweet Talk, episode 19.
It's lit.
Yep.
AKA drink champs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, now people can see you drinking, man. This guy.
Man, I be getting lit on Tweet Talk.
Hey, yo, it's the Breakfast Club. Tweet Talk.
This guy, man. So tonight's episode, whenever you're listening to this, we've got guest Jamaal Vetose, former director of the Todd Capital Stock Investing Club. Am I right?
Yeah, director, marketing, and research analyst. I was the president for a while. Charles had me doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but now Jamaal is Hollywood, is big time. He moved on to
Let me start that big time. I might work for a PWI Wall Street firm now, but even my position there is all about the culture, all about getting the knowledge.
When they get on, they leave your ass for a white firm.
No. Because for your listeners that don't know, I spent the last 18 months prior. Well, I've been at the new firm 2 months, but the 19 months prior, I was at a community black-owned bank, honing my skills, sharpening my skills, and whatever. And exactly what because the COO was the one who brought me in. Like I had tweeted them. Actually, I kind of trolled them on Twitter. I trolled him, and he was so impressed. He brought me on. When he said, that's what black firms should do. And this goes into our thing. He said, black institutions should foster our community, like our community professionals, to go out into the world, learn from larger corporations, and bring that back home to the base. That's my focus.
Mm-hmm.
I got housed at home. They sending me out there in the world. I'm gonna get some insight, some knowledge, some skills, and I'm gonna come back home.
Interestingly enough, I've seen that. Like I said, I used to work for a private family office, and they manage wealth, they manage finances, they do loans, they do construction. And one of their sons went to school and got an undergrad degree in finance, and they sent him to a different firm. They didn't even hire him at their own office. They sent him out there for a few reasons. One is that it's tough. It's a dynamic when you have somebody who's like, their dad is the boss coming into your organization. You can kind of disrupt the continuity, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Others, to send him out there to learn. So he's not working for money. He's working to learn, like the book says. And so it's just something I've seen from the wealthy. The wealthy do this. It's kind of like I always tell people, like Donald Trump, he is wealthy, but he sent his kids to college. He sent his kids to get MBAs. He sent them to Wharton. Right. You got to still train them up. You still got to make them valuable individuals so that they can come back into the fold. So yeah, I agree. I should be talking shit.
No, I know I know Charles especially knows what I'm doing because I've told him about it. But I want other people to sometimes think, because they always think, oh, you spend a little time at the small black firm to go to a bigger white firm because that's where you really want to be. That's what the prestige is. No, that's not my thinking. I need to get the knowledge because those small black firms sometimes don't have all the resources or don't necessarily know how to build them. So you need someone to go absorb that information. How do they run this? How do we build that out? So when I come back in 5 years, okay, we don't have a wealth management division. Build it from scratch. We don't do analytics. Right. Build it from scratch. Like, you've done all that. Now you can come back and say, this is what I learned. This is what the world taught me. And it's also about networking. Just like how the NCAA for years back in the day used to nitpick and steal black athletes from HBCUs. You go to some of these white firms, network, you nitpick, steal some of the talent from them, and bring them back home.
Respect.
It's cool. Yeah, I mean, even Chick-fil-A does this too. I mean, that's what I heard a couple of years ago. That the Caffey family, when their kids graduate from college, they send them out for 2 years to work for another company before they come work.
They do.
Come work for the family, man. You know,
it's lit. We out here figuring out these strategies, man.
Yeah, it's like I like it, man. We definitely got to go out there, deploy our children to go learn this stuff and bring it back home. That's what these other people do. They send their kids to college so that they can come into the business, a little Chinese store, Chinese food store, whatever, and bring their knowledge, their book knowledge, and just strengthen the business and increase it. You got to be thinking that way too.
Also, a sense of entitlement. Like Charles was talking about at his firm, they didn't even hire him at his own firm. They sent him out. Imagine how humble that makes you. Daddy wouldn't even hire me. I got to show my worth and go work for somebody else. Not even for the money. It shows that not even for the money. I have to show that
you got proof. I got
proof that my skill set is up to par. That I'm knowledgeable enough, that I'm intelligent enough, that I am a intellectual, vital asset to the family legacy, and not just basically a trainer from the assets.
It's lit. Where we at, Raphael?
Yeah, let's see. I'm just trying because Charles is over here. He's on Instagram right now, man. I'm getting pop-ups on my like Todd Millionaire mentioned you with a comment. I'm like, wait, what's going on with this guy? I mean, if he's tweeting and posting Instagram pics where he's on vacation with the wife, I mean, what can I expect, right? But anyway, Charles is saying like black men are billionaires.
Yeah.
I noticed you were talking about this guy, David Stewart, and you were saying you never even heard of this guy. Brand new black billionaire up there. I never even heard of him until I saw your tweet. I'm like, we definitely got to promote this stuff more and let people know about these people. Like, I never even heard of him until like today.
David Stewart. The name sounds familiar, but I forget what he does.
I think he's worth like 3.9 billion.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Like even if not being on the list of
is that the guy from Africa for oil or something?
He's not even from Africa.
No, he's American. He's American.
Oh. American.
Yeah, he just jumped on the list like a couple months ago.
He just owns some random company.
Yeah, what does this random company do for $3.2 billion?
Like,
I'm thinking about worldwide technology. IT. Yeah. I think it's IT.
Yeah, it's not even like some sexy stuff.
It's like, and then the name is like Worldwide Technology.
Also, Bob Johnson's a billionaire as well. We don't talk about him enough.
He was the original,
right?
Before Oprah.
Yeah.
Well, no, Reginald F. Lewis was the original, but Bob Johnson, yeah. Like to this day, I still feel like selling BET to Viacom hurt the community.
100%.
Because
selling always hurts the community. Selling always hurts the community because it's not just about the money. It's about all the different things that go into it.
But selling BET hurt the community, to say nothing of the fact that TV One, which Kathy Hughes owns, doesn't do enough. Y'all have these platforms where you could have hundreds and dozens of original programming elevating the community, and y'all resort to running Baby Boy 10 times a week. Like that's not the way. You are the two most powerful black media powers in the community. That's all we got, BT and TD1. And you resort to running reruns of Martin, which is a classic. I'm all for that. But it should be more. You could be
substance, right?
You should run news. Like we should have daily black news.
Mm-hmm.
Daily black news. We should be like that. Should spotlight the community. That could be helping black businesses raise investment. That could be helping communities raise investment in real estate. That could be helping HBCUs fundraise.
Mm-hmm.
They're not using the platform in the right way.
Putting HBCU football games on TV is an opportunity as well that people are missing out on, because it's not just about, of course, putting them on TV, but also the ad space. You're going to make money through ads. You're going to give these athletes exposure. You're going to give these schools exposure, because a lot of these schools, these programs make their money off of TV. They're not just making it off of ticket sales. They make it off of the TV ads or the TV that they're on NBC, and they're getting that fat check, kind of like the NFL teams and NBA teams. And so, like, we're not even tapping into that market, even though we have the opportunity and the resources.
Yeah. Because so many good entrepreneurs, once they stabilize and reach that plateau of achievement, they go from entrepreneurial hunger to greed survival. It's about my money, about
and
my
that's why
status.
You can't chase the money, man. You cannot chase the money. You got to
be about purpose.
You got to chase the purpose. You got to chase, like, it's just some stuff that you got to do because the culture needs it. Whether you get rich, you can drive a Rolls Royce or not. Because after a certain level, folks just kind of overdo it. Like, Floyd Mayweather has too much money. Like, all you need is one Rolls Royce, brother. This dude has 15. And low-key, I think he has a whole black fleet and a whole white fleet. So every car that you see that he has in black, he has in white. And so I saw, like, this great picture of, like, all this black, like, fly cars. But apparently in Miami, he has a house and he has all his white cars out there. I feel like,
is that to go into conjunction with those stupid $50 million watches he has?
That too. It's like, and I feel like it kind of frustrates me because it's folks out there who like, the community is struggling, but we have people out there who are just spending money on ignorant stuff. And it always reminds me of the Chris Brown or the Chris Rock quote that I quoted recently on another podcast, and I was talking about how, like, when a white man gets money, he creates jobs and he creates Walmarts so that other white people can have jobs. When a black man gets money, he buys some fucking jewelry, and we gotta stop buying jewelry and cars.
That's what he does, yo. He buys some jewelry. Like, but they're all
it's ridiculous.
There are small bright spots. We're seeing some of the athletes, your hip hop moguls, your Nas's,
but
your
you look at Tyler
LeBron.
Perry, he's not shining like that,
right?
Because he has his money working. His money's in the streets. His money's creating jobs, and he's still rich.
Right, investment.
I'd rather be on the Forbes and be flashing on motherfuckers. I'd rather be on the Forbes and people know that I got wealth, and my kids don't want for anything, and I've created jobs and opportunity for thousands of people, than to have done nothing for anybody but to just look rich.
How y'all feel it? Because I read this article recently, and I've been seeing this a lot, that they're creating, that women, black women and other women of different ethnicities are creating funds to invest in black women-owned companies, which is fine, and they need the money. You know, only 2% of black businesses get any investment at all. But I'm finding that the more they focus on making sure that the black women-backed companies get investment, no one's talking about black men companies getting invested who are equally as underfunded. There are no funds popping up to invest in the black man. And once again, we're supposed to be the head of the community, but no one's considering that they need investment as well in these black-owned companies.
Right.
As if that black men are out here just getting money and black women aren't. That's not really the case.
What do you think, Raphael? What do you think on that, man?
I mean, this is what we talk about a lot. I mean, this is why Charles started with the whole. Yeah, this is why Charles
started
black
the whole. Start funding black male-owned businesses too.
Yeah,
not playing.
Right. I mean, I've been already noticing it lately. Like that whole exactly what you just said. Like I was thinking about Harlem Capital, not to pick on Harlem Capital, but it's like a lot of people. Charles, man. And a lot of people, they say, they talk about women-led businesses don't get hardly any capital. Black women especially don't get any capital for their businesses, versus white men-led businesses. But they don't talk about businesses led by black men.
Like
they'll talk about women.
We get put in this weird.
We just get lost.
We get put in this weird subset of where it's like apparently black men are getting some privilege in the business community. I'm sorry, did I miss this? Are we not on? Did we miss this train?
Yeah.
Like, are we in some C-level positions? Are they throwing money at us?
Yeah.
And I just don't like it because I feel like what's going to happen is the dynamic's going to shift because black women already make more small businesses than black men. The statistics show that they had 5 times more businesses and startups than us. You add into the equation that in the venture, the VC community, they're going to start getting money and funds are getting created specifically just to invest in them with no consideration for the black man.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that it could be another stereotype to try to divide the community, but I don't like the recipe that y'all cooking.
Yeah. The problem is people don't realize that what they're doing is wrong because they benefit from it. And that's one of the reasons why instead of trying to get like Black Girls Rock or all these other black women organizations to like say, nah, black people need help too, black men need help too, I was just like, I'm going to create it because they can't see it. Like we talked about with Tasha, like she literally is blind. She's Stevie Wonder to it. She does not want to see it. She's just like, nah, I know that statistically we make more and we have more businesses and we're more educated, but I still want a bunch of free shit. And I deserve this free shit because I have a vagina. Therefore, I must get free shit, despite what the facts say. And so I think that, like, as men, we got to just sit back and assess the bullshit and just govern ourselves accordingly. Yeah. And we don't need people to acknowledge and agree and say, yeah, I agree. We do need to help black men. Like, we already know. I know. I don't need Tasha to agree with me. I know. And you know. And Raphael knows. And any other brother out here knows that it's fucked up. And we know that people are retarded and they're misguided and they have a bias. And the thing with Harlem Capital is they raise money to invest. It's not their money. So, and a lot of their investors are like white dudes.
That's true.
Who they're trying to convince to invest in these things. I was so frustrated when I saw they posted something and they're like, we just invested in this company, people of color. And it wasn't no black folks. They didn't invest in Blavity. They didn't invest in whatever. They invested in some random white women-owned company, maybe a few Mexican people in there, maybe some people in there, because women and people of color. Fuck that. I am of the mindset of if there are people out there who are underfunded, so my responsibility is
I'm with Charles. My responsibility is to the black community.
Right.
The black community as a whole, the black man second, and then the black woman. Not saying the black woman is last, but if my men are not strong and flat-footed, there's no hope for the black woman.
Right. Even if they think they're winning, they aren't winning. I put out this tweet earlier and it was talking about how like a lot of women, they think that they're winning because they get more money if the man's not in the house, not knowing that if the man's in the house, you'll get even more money because you have a contributing being. And money is fake, man. There are certain things that we got to focus on that are not money oriented, like stability for your children, or having that stern voice for your children, or having that heavy hand for your children, or having that unconditional support for your children, or having that sense of building confidence in your children that a man does. There are so many things that have nothing to do with money, but they convince people to think that money is everything and we need stuff. We got to buy stuff. I need a new car. I need a new TV. I need a new dress. That they're willing to push out all those other factors just so they can get a bunch of stuff so they can look good and feel good about themselves. And so I feel like we have to stop really focusing on money if we're talking about wealth. Because wealth, in my opinion, isn't just about money. Wealth is about power and control. Wealth is about being able to dictate where you go in life. And right now, we are helpless. We are defeated. And we're still chasing money. It's still been the same talk since the 80s. Money talk isn't new. Wealth talk might be new, but money talk is not new. They've been talking money talk, getting Gucci, getting Louis, getting Benzes, and all that stuff, popping Cristal.
It's funny you say that because early in this year, I think it was early this year, y'all might correct me, maybe it was late last year around this time, the guy sold Bevel, the black-owned company. And I just read an article maybe not a month ago that says he has buyer's remorse. He wished he had not sold it to, who was it? I think it was it P&G that bought it?
I think so.
I think it was it was the other one. Is it Revlon? What's the other company? I forget the one that make razors or something. It might have been Gillette. I think Gillette or someone bought it. And he has buyer remorse because he felt like, and this is what the exact words from the article, he felt like they're no longer serving the community. The very people he made the razors for is no longer their market segment. Yeah, bruh. I could have told you that when they cut you that check.
Right. And that's why I'll never forget, I heard this Warren Buffett quote. And he said that one of the worst things that you can do if you have a business that makes money is sell it for money. Because then you have to figure out what you're going to do with that money. And so I'm of the mindset that we just never sell.
Profound. That is profound.
Right. And so it kind of speaks to like the Carol's daughter on all those other organizations, but it's a point that I've made on another podcast where it's like a business is more important than just the net income and what accrues to the owner. You got to look at all the jobs you're creating. You got to look at all the change you're creating. You got to look at all the people and the connections that you're making, like all the people that you're working with in the supply chain, that because you're working with them, you're working with Black-owned people throughout that supply chain, as opposed to just shipping it off to China and going to get the cheapest thing. So I think that, like, for me, the business is bigger than just getting rich. Getting rich effectively comes by the business, but the business is about that community. The business is about retiring your wife, making sure your kids don't have any financial worries, making sure that people aren't over here begging for minimum wage, making sure, like, just the dignity and not having to beg McDonald's to give you more money. That is worth owning your own business. Like, have some fucking pride. Like Dame Dash is, there's pride in ownership. There's pride in that. It's not just being rich. We get sold being rich as if being rich is the goal, instead of like having a successful, healthy, thriving community is the goal. There's already Black people that are rich, but do we have a successful, thriving community that is self-sustainable and is free from threat and isn't out here getting our ass kicked by every fucking community that wants to come into America?
Yeah, I say this all the time, and I know it may sound egotistical to some people, but you probably I know the two of you okay. I tell people all the time
about ego in here.
I don't.
we are the sauce, man.
That I don't want money. I want power and influence more than anything. I want the power that when I pick up the phone, the President of the United States calls me. Like, I want the power that other CEOs ask me to be on their boards. I want the power that people seek my professional opinion. I want power. I want influence. Right. I want reputation. I want reverence. I want that. The money will come. The 6, 7, 8 figures in the bank account, that'll be there. But people sitting there saying, "Oh, we need someone to consult on this new, expansive financial project," and my name is, if it ain't on the top of the list, I'm top 3, and I damn sure ain't 3rd.
Damn right, it's lit. No humility on here.
Because we are the sauce.
Be great Black men and be humble at the same time.
Yo, and that's what I want. I want to live up to the legacy of Reginald F. Lewis, Eddie C. Brown, all I forget John J. Johnson, the guy who made Ebony and Essence. I want to live up to them, because talk about building a business from pride. Like, those are still Black-owned businesses. Like, Lewis still, and I feel like Reginald F. Lewis died. We lost him way into his prime. Like, he still had so much more to teach us.
Right. Man, and Raphael, Charles, you said
fire off the tweets, man. Oh, yeah. Get a chance to touch that teach. So the reason why I posted that is because, again, my goal is to reshape the narrative. So if I tell you that Black men are billionaires, and I keep saying it over and over and over and over again, pretty soon you're gonna start thinking that Black men are billionaires, not that Black men are thugs and criminals and whatever else they try to paint. And so, like, just 'cause, like, they can use the media and words and language to shape us, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna speak what I want to see. I'm gonna speak what we're gonna walk into. And I feel like what we don't realize is too often we do the opposite. And so we speak the negative of us. We speak the N word and the B word and the we broke, we ain't ever gonna have shit. We po, they ain't gonna let us do nothing. And that becomes our reality. So if you change your words, you change your life. If you change what you speak, you change what you see. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Like, that's one of the things that people didn't understand about me on Twitter for the longest time. Is like, I talk where I want to be. And so people will see me talking about, like, I'm hopping out the Maybach. They're like, he's so rich. He gets all the money. Then they find out I'm still hustling to get there. Like, oh, he's a fraud. He's fake. He's
right.
that. I just speak what I want to see, man. I'm going to call myself a
So basically, Charles just gave y'all the earthly version of speak those things that are not as if they already were.
And the crazy part is that was always the source. Like, I grew up in church. I grew up in a faith-based church. And so, like, for me, like, the calling those things that be not as though they were, like calling them, actually saying them out of your mouth, speaking them. It's not just like believe those things that be not as though they were, like call them. And that's what I do. Like I said, I tweet it, I believe it, I'm going to tell you it. And so like that's kind of my motto. And I think that's something we need to adopt in the community.
Definitely. But taking that either further, they need to these things need to, like how you just said, you're hopping out the Maybach. That's a tangible
hopping out the Maybach
goal. That's a tangible goal. You're giving yourself a specific goal. When people be like, oh, I want to be rich. Nah. I tell people all the time that my goal is to have $100 million in net worth. That's cash, real property, businesses I own. That's the goal. $100 million. When it's all said and done and they about to put me in the ground, that's the least I own. When people be like, oh, I want to be rich. Okay. I want to, be 6 feet tall. Like, what is, like, you need to be specific. Like, what's rich? Rich is different to a lot of people. To Bill Gates, his $80 billion is just rich. To us, that's wealthy. Like, what are we talking about? So you got to get to the specifics of it and really just don't speak in generalities. Like, and these goals have to be written down. And you need those vision boards. You need those notebooks where your goals are constantly being evaluated and vetted and relooked at every quarter. This needs to be a constant striving mechanism and not just something you're just saying, I say it all the time. People just say stuff for social media. These gurus, these experts, these whatever they call themselves out there selling people windmills or dreams or something. Charles knows I hate the gurus on social media. Lord, I hate the gurus.
But it's like, Charles, you said on Twitter, stop trying to compete and compare to white people and just focus on being great.
I've been listening to a lot of David Banner. And you know what's so crazy about David Banner is I didn't listen to David Banner until he got his podcast. He has his podcast, and I listened to his podcast, and from there I just kind of fell into the wormhole that is David Banner content. And that was kind of a quote from him. He was talking about how, like, he creates music for Black people, and he was talking about how, like, we kind of are the sauce. And therefore, instead of us trying to be white and compare ourselves to white people, because one of the things that I hate when I say something on Twitter and some people will say like, well, white people do it too. Or what about what white people doing? And the crazy part about it is it allows us to justify bullshit just because white people do it. And so it was like twofold. First and foremost, we are great. And we can do some Tyler Perry level stuff across the board, not just to, like as it pertains to a film studio. If you want to create an investment fund, we can do that better than them. If you want to create a podcast, we can do that better than them. If we want to create whatever we want to create, we can do it better than them. And so the problem is, it's like the 10X rule book. He says competition is for sissies. Like, don't compete, dominate. I don't want to compete. You are not to the bar. If I compete with you, you become the bar instead of the bar being as great as I could potentially be. And one of the things that's really interesting about this is, like, you look at the NBA, you look at the NFL, and I'm like, imagine if we let white folks be the bar in all spaces, which we kind of do. So I think that in business and technology and innovation, we can dominate that space better than them. And in fact, historically, we have. Like, that's the most frustrating thing is, like, historically, like, all those super dope inventions, all those super dope innovations, that was us doing that. not them. And so it's a charge to people, like, believe in you, don't believe in them. Launch out and believe in yourself, choose yourself, and build something based off of what you believe, not seeking validation for them. You'll get a whole lot further. And I still love white
people. You want to add, Jamaal?
I think Charles basically said it all. Because I basically do the same thing when I be telling people that, comparisons, Buffett's good, Gates and all is good, but when I'm telling people about business, like Reginald F. Lewis is always the standard for me. Like, that's where we come from. That's where we should be focusing. Those people on Black Wall Street, Tulsa, and all that. And Tulsa wasn't the rarity. It was the most famous of a small sect of different communities around that had sprouted up.
100%.
So, right. So you don't have to compare yourselves to other people to get where you need to be. Like, there was someone when they was accepting an Oscar speech said that their heroes always themselves 10 years in the future. That should be you. Like, y'all were just saying the sauce. The sauce is you. Each one of us as a black man, as a black woman, like, we have a certain piece of the recipe in the sauce that we can add to the community, that we can add to the marketplace. And this is the best part. People miss the fact that they have probably a special talent that the marketplace is itching for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you probably could make $1 on the internet. And if you can make $1, you can 10x it, as Charles said. You can make $10. You can make $10, you can make 100. You can make 100, you can make 1,000. You can make 1,000, you can make 10. Like, you have everything you need. If people would stop paying attention to other people's tests and pay attention to their own paperwork, they would ace the exam.
Just gotta run your race.
Yeah, it's like I see one of your tweets, Charles. You said my job gets in the way of my genius.
It does, man. Today we had the day off, and I feel like I just got approached. Every time I'm off, I get approached with a lot of really dope opportunities. So, like, John Delia is hitting me up about creating an opportunity fund. Supposed to be speaking in Ohio. Just so many dope things that I do. Like, I always say, like, I call my contractors and the managers for the organizations daily. Like, once a day, I touch everybody. I got to either text you, phone call you. I need an update. And today, I actually called people like 2 or 3 times. I was like, I'm not calling you once a day. I'm calling you till the job gets done. And so I just feel like I was able to do a lot, and the job gets in the way of so much because I could truly operate in my purpose 100% if I was just free from clocking in. And because, I mean, it's actually bigger than just the hours that you're there working. For me, I usually work like at 8 until 7, but I leave the house at 6. I leave the house at 6, get in the office at 8. I leave the office at 7. I get home at 9. So that's 6 until 9, Raphael. It's not a 9 to 5. Right. That's like 15 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so imagine if I had that time to just dedicate to myself. And so that's kind of where I am, is now that things are I have a lot of things going, and I keep doing more and more stuff because each thing is a stream. It's going to allow me to be free from that job. So that's kind of the focus right now. But it definitely gets in the way because, I mean, it's like he says, retire yourself and then get rich. And he also says, like, the problem with the job is it gets in the way of getting rich. It does. It's like, imagine if you had your freshest hour to strictly work on your business, because there are things in your business that don't cost money. A lot of people think, like, I need money to build a business. Like, no, you need probably just time and hustle. And so if you have your time back and you can just put that into dominating all the free platforms, pretty soon that free is going to turn into paid. Pretty soon that pay is going to turn into even more paid, and you just keep flipping it. But if you have your time back, then you could just post on a blog, which is free, which gets traction. You can use MailChimp, which is free. You can use WordPress, which is free. You can use Instagram, which is free. And that's going to allow you to build your business. And so if you just get your time back to dominate all those free channels, which you don't need the money, what's inevitable?
And I like my little 2 cents is when I saw that. What I thought of is when you say my job gets in the way of my genius, I started thinking of you talked before even on this podcast, like your job, the company you work for, your job will kind of pigeonhole you into a small subset of your real skills.
Mm-hmm.
Like they put you to do this one job, and you got to stay in that one job and do that one thing all day long every day. And they also won't look at you. They won't consider you for like anything else. Like at my job, position came out. By the time I found out about it, it was too late anyway. But still, it was like nobody. Somebody said to me, "You know what? You would be good for that job." But it was something completely different than the department I was working in. So they never thought of me. I was like, well, this person is in this department. They're good at that. We're gonna look elsewhere for this talent to do this job. So you're gonna get pigeonholed into one thing, doing one job. Unlike when you're an entrepreneur, you have to do everything, so you learn everything. That's my 2 cents. But what do you say on that, Jamaal?
It can. I think me and Charles had a conversation about this on his podcast. I think it was a couple of months ago when I was saying that. I think I was saying that all those nuisance jobs are your skills life hack. Like, because I worked a lot of odd jobs on my way through college. Like, I couldn't afford, I had to work my way through college. There was no trust fund. I had to work my way through college. So I had to work for TSA. I worked for Digital Corrections. I worked for an entrepreneurial center. I worked different things. And even though I hated those jobs, the entrepreneur thing I liked because, of course, that was in the field. But even though I hated those jobs, I used those experiences to gain what I got from them. The time at DOC taught me patience. The time at TSA taught me security and, analysis and that type of thing. And that's why I kind of feel it. Like, don't let the job, it can stop your genius, but don't allow it to. Don't let them pigeonhole you in the position if they don't see you for the position that becomes opened up because they ain't let you know. I always tell people all the time, like, you should be on your own job's website seeing what positions they have open. Like, even if it upsets your boss, because you have to do your career. Like, bosses, you'll see sometimes bosses will keep you in the position because you basically run the department for them. You make them look good. So they don't want you to leave. So it's like, oh, I need you here because you're doing my work. Right. I'm getting the salary paid that you're not getting paid, so I'm not letting you go nowhere. Let these jobs work for you. And I'm sure Charles meant it I'm not sure if he meant it literally or was he just speaking in a philosophical term. Or you mean it literally when you said your job blocks your genius, Charles?
I just think that I could be more genius if I didn't have to go there. I could do so much more.
Because I've worked with this man for 3 years, and he found time in a 24-hour day to do everything. So I'm not sure if the job really blocks his genius, but I get what he was saying.
Next level. It's a current ceiling.
Yeah, I got you for real. Because those 8 hours where punching a clock for corporate America could be free time you building a brand. I definitely get you there. But it can, for some people who I would say who can't multitask, who lack the discipline to work the 9 to 5, get off at 5, then put in 5 to 6 hours on the business on the side, then maybe only sleep 3 and 4 hours and do that continuously for stretches amounts of the time, it can block your genius because all you're focusing on is that check. So now you're just living for the check. So you have to be willing to fight through the stagnation, to fight through the resistance, to fight through the obstacles, so that if you feel the genius being blocked, that you can rejuvenate it.
Also, I respect that. Sometimes I'd just be tweeting. He said people just be tweeting shit. I felt it, but I didn't really dig deep. I didn't really like. I didn't tweet talk to that one. That was just me just firing some shit off.
No, I feel you. Like sometimes I know you're speaking literal, or sometimes you're just giving people philosophical things to think. So I was like, I wasn't sure if Charles meant like the job was literally blocking this genius, or was that just a tidbit for the people?
Man, but the low key though, I want to say I was, because we're doing some really cool stuff right now, where we just put in like a deposit to bid, and I was like, wow, we really did that. It was like, so last year we did the deposit for the auction. If you only put in $2,500 for your deposit, you can only buy one house. But if you put in $10,000, you can buy unlimited homes. And so I was like, let's just drop the 10 this year. And so we literally was like, $10,000, boom. Like, we did that shit. We paid somebody $10,000 just for the opportunity to do something. I think that is powerful, because Tone Talks would say that's not possible. Tone Talks would say, oh, we broke. We ain't never going to have no money. But the team effort allows us to do whatever the hell we want to do. So now we're in a position where we could buy as many homes as we want and potentially either wholesale them or just keep them. My goal is 5 homes, and I think that we get there. But it's just interesting kind of the stuff that we walked into. But I think that there are things that we could be doing, that I could be doing if I had the time, like the effort and energy. Like, it's not even just like, I work in law. Law is very, very intellectually intensive. So when I'm there, I'm not just like waiting for the time to pass. I'm there and I'm thinking about complex issues all the time. I'm thinking about how this thing affects that thing, how that thing affects that thing. And so my thinking is that, imagine if I had all that intellectual time to just apply to making my skyscraper work, or making these phone calls, or do I need to do in Detroit? Like, that is, it really, in a sense, does kind of block what I could potentially be doing, because I could be doing so much more. So, like, what I do is cool, and we make progress doing it, but we could be doing so much more. And I think the job does, in a lot of ways, block that.
So I feel like the Tweet Talk guest's going to ask you, when you going to quit your job then, bro?
When am I going to quit my job? When we get 20 doors. That's the goal. 20 doors and I'm quitting.
That's what I was looking for, a specific answer. I was just telling the people they got to be specific in their goals.
Yeah.
Charles just told you that when he get 20 doors, he quitting the job.
Right, because I was like 10 doors isn't going to do it. But 20 doors will allow me to give my partners a good return and me still not have to work. Technically, at 10 doors, I could do it, but I couldn't still provide what I want to provide for my partners. And so that's why I kind of doubled it to 20 doors. But the crazy part about it is you retire yourself and then you get rich. So we retire ourselves at 20 doors and then we go crazy. And then it's like, all right, we got to 20. Now let's see what else we can do. Now let's see what else we can buy. Now let's see what other barbershop we can start. Now let's see whatever crazy, no-name, billion-dollar business we can buy just because they make bottle caps. Like, that's what we're trying to get to.
I just want to point out the fact for the people who are listening how analytical Charles was in that solution. Like, sometimes people overlook how strategy plays into business. He said at 10 doors he could do it, but he can't provide the return that he would want for his investors. He's thinking about ROI, ROA. He's thinking about stock owner equity. He's thinking about revenues. Like, he worked through the numbers so he knows that 20 doors is that. That's the end game. That's when I can really quit, start moving. Like, that's the type of thinking you need to be out here as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as we're working through ideation. Your mind has to be that fluid. Not instantaneously, but you have to teach yourself to think like that.
Right. And that's why I in a lot of ways why I say, like, it stops your genius, because imagine wealth comes through creation. So imagine if you have your most creative hours to strictly focus on finding more wealth. And the crazy part about it is your boss does have that. Your boss hires you to do what he doesn't want to do anymore. And so then his only job, this is why I always tell people, like, being a CEO is valuable. His only job is growth, is acquisitions, is scale. It's like, that's kind of where I'm trying to go. And that's why I'm reading this really cool book right now called Traction. Hopefully it's heard a lot of really good stuff about it. But yeah, that's kind of the focus now.
Nice.
Raphael, what's next, man?
Yeah. So you said on one side of work is struggle, on the other side is skills and connections.
So I'm kind of mad that you're choppy right now. I don't know what's going on, but I'm actually glad.
I know, man. Think about
it.
Oh, so it's not me. I thought it was my phone. I'm like, am I missing something?
I was just about to ask, like, y'all hearing this, man? Because nobody said anything. I'm like, man, this is driving me crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of choppy. So we just went through a situation where we had a property, right? So we bought a property from the land bank. We rehabbed this property, and then we went to go get it past inspection, and he didn't get the permits. And so they wouldn't pass it, even though the work was compliant, because we didn't have the permits. And so I had to circle back and get the permits. But the problem is you can only get the permits from somebody who is licensed. And so we had to get licensed contractors to come in, do extra work on top of the work that they already did, so that then we can get the permits. But in doing that, I learned so much about the permitting process, so much so that now we're working on property number 2, which, well, not property number 2, it's probably like property number 6. We're working on the Tracy house, which is a property that I actually bought in my own pocket. And then I went JV 50-50 with the club. And so now I'm like, okay, I can do the permits this way, I can do the permits that way, but I know the permitting process. And so where in the beginning, before the Oakman house, I was 100% naive as to the whole permitting process. I had no idea. I was just hoping it was going to work out. We got to the end, found out it didn't work out, and I figured out how to get through that. And so what I realized is that, like, now I have the skills of understanding the permitting process. I have a great plumber. I have a great electrician. And now I can effectively GC my own properties, own projects. So if I can GC my own projects, I can GC my projects, but I can also be a GC for somebody else's project. And so there's a lot of people in the investment club who they just want their ROI. They just want their 25%, 30%. They just want their money so they can go spend it on vacations. But they're not realizing that the skill set that you get from doing the work will make you wealthy. The skill set that you get from doing the work will put you in the position where now you're stepping into other opportunities because you can say, I've done this here. Like I said before, like, your job doesn't ask you how good your grades were. They ask you what you've done. They ask you for your resume because experience is more important than intelligence. And so if you can get experience, you're going to get the intelligence, but it's intelligence in the form of actually applied, like, knowledge, not just like, oh, I memorized some stuff late at night and then I came in next day, regurgitated it, and then went home and forgot it all. And so, like, that's what I mean by that. Like, everything that I've ran through has made me a more skilled person, a more informed person, a more educated person, a more valuable person. And it's not just the degrees. Now it's like, what am I doing next? Now it's like you build a skyscraper and now you just become somebody who knows how to build skyscrapers. So now it's like a foregone conclusion. Now I look at a house, I'm like, all right, we got to do this. All right, get it done, man. Like, it's second hat now. It's old hat now. And so, like, that's what I was saying is, like, the work is the reward. Work is the best mentor. If you are looking for a mentor, go work for somebody for free. Just get around them. Just be around them for 8 hours straight. Don't take them to coffee and have them tell you a few little tidbits in here. No, go work for them. Go see how they operate in real life. Go see how they operate in real time. Go see how they operate under pressure, when times are good, when customers come in complaining. Like, that is so valuable. And I think that that's what people don't realize is, like, they're just looking for that little shortcut. And the shortcut is do the work, fam. Do the work. Fall in love with the work, and everything will follow.
Agree. Definitely agree on that.
Well, so Charles, tell us about the Best of Black Man
clothing drive,
coat and suit drive.
Man.
Yep.
Man.
Clothing drive.
So the T-Mix is so valuable because anything that you do is going to add value to you, right? So it's like, I need to build the brand. I need to build the brand that is Blessed Black Man. And so the goal is to do this coat drive and just try to raise coats and suits. I want business attire for these men so they can go on interviews. My goal is to really reshape stuff and do it through giving. And so for me, I was home today. I was off today because it was Yom Kippur. And I was going through my closet, and I was like, I got all these suits I can't really wear. And so I started pulling them out. And then as I pulled them out, I had a closet full of like really fresh suits that I like a lot. And I was like, my closet looks kind of fly with all the fresh suits hanging up. And I was like, I want other people to experience that, having a fresh looking closet, not cluttered with all your old stuff mixed in with your new stuff. And so like giving is beneficial because giving helps them, but it also you have to get rid of your old stuff so that you can grow. But like I said, givers grow. And so as we help other African American men, we actually become better. It's like they said, like if a candle lights a candle, it doesn't, like the flame doesn't get smaller. Like we need to do more lighting of candles. We're gonna run it for the next 3 months. I'm gonna really promote it. I think at the meetup is where I'll do like the drop-offs. They can bring it to downtown LA. We're having our next one at Crab Queens, and then we're gonna have one in November, and we'll have Erica come out, and then we got to figure out how we're gonna distribute them. That's gonna be the hard part. But like I was thinking about this today. I was thinking like you make money by administering charity. So if Jay-Z starts a foundation, if some wealthy person starts a foundation and they have somebody administer the foundation, they're going to make 6 figures, 7 figures to administer that foundation. And so by asking somebody to do things for you, you're really just saying, get rich on my behalf. Well, get rich and give us crumbs. Like that's what they're saying. They're saying like, okay, because like if you donate money to the Red Cross, you spend all that money to like handle Red Cross overhead. They're paying for their real estate, their lease, their salaries, all that stuff. And they say, okay, well, you know, we got some canned beans. We have this stuff. And so we got to become the charity for our community. If we become the charity, we also become the people who actually get to administer the charity, which then means we're creating jobs and opportunities. And so it's like, it's about community. So like, yeah, when you become the solution, you create everything. So yeah, you solve your problem, but you also solve your problems. So that's kind of my goal. I went on a long tangent, but the goal is to do something. I have a lot of coats, I have a lot of jackets, a lot of suits that I can't fit anymore. And I know other people have the same stuff. And I think that if it's also part mindset, because we're not giving you bullshit. We're giving you stuff so that you can elevate your life. We're giving you stuff so that you can go on an interview, so that you can get a job, so that you can be a productive member of society. We're not just saying like, here's some free food so you go sit on the side of the curb all day. We're not saying here's some money so you can go and you can go buy some drugs. We're saying, bro, I see more in you than you probably see in yourself. I want you to elevate your life. I want you to become an example for your children, for women that are connected to you. So I'm going to give you something that's going to help you get there. I'm going to give you something that's going to help you tie it together. And a lot of us don't have cheap suits. Like, I'm not giving you a cheap suit. I'm not giving you something that's like whack. It's like, it's an expensive piece of expensive item. So like, I'm investing in you. And the more that I give, the more that I grow. So like for me, I look forward to the opportunity to give. And we got to become that solution, man. I don't want to beg somebody to solve our problems. It makes us look like some bitches.
Tell them how you really feel.
Don't be a little bee. Be a blessing. Be a blessing.
Don't be a little bee. Start a little business. Episode, I forget which episode that was actually. It's one of them.
Do you have any lined up tweets for Jamaal? Because I have some.
No, I don't.
All right, I'm about to fire some off. Because the best part about Jamaal, and I was going to tell him, is he has to be raw and uncut on Tweet Talks. Like, if you feel a certain way, you got to just let it. You just got to say what you got to say, man. Some of the funniest tweets is when he starts like going in on people. Let me see what I got here.
What did you find, Chuck? What did you find?
It don't take long. It won't take long.
All right,
it really won't.
He said, fellas, stop. It's funny because you call them the beloveds. He says, fellas, stop letting beloveds slide out of town with you on your dime and post themselves the whole time. I mean, you don't have to want to be posted on social media, but don't let her front like she took herself all alone.
Yo, this is my point. You take a girl on vacation. Women always talking about real men do this, real men do that. So you go on vacation. For her to take selfies, as if she then flew herself out, that she get in the bag. Mind you, she might be getting her own bag, but she took this trip on your dime, and she gonna take pictures like she did by herself? No, sir. No, sir. She ain't got to take pictures with you, but don't let her take no pictures like she did by herself. No. You're not, either you're on vacation with me or you're not on vacation.
I feel like that's so whack. I feel like that's so whack because it seems like they're like trying to, it's like you go to a girl's Instagram and she'll be single on Instagram and then she'll pop up pregnant. And I'm like, what happened? How'd you get pregnant if you're single? How'd you get pregnant if like all your pictures are just you posing in different locations?
Charles, I be trying to figure it out all the time on my favorite line. They be like, "Oh, I'm good on you dudes." How you good on us, but you pregnant now? I thought you was good on everybody. I thought you couldn't trust nobody.
It's crazy.
And it's just like, and that kind of, and I talk about tweets like that because we always talk about wealth and everything like that. And I feel like
those are my favorite tweets when you start going in.
Because people, I'm all about wealth. Let me make this very clear. But most black people couldn't survive a $400 emergency. So you want dudes to take you on $200 dates. If you happen to live with a dude outside of marriage, he needs to pay all the bills, the mortgage, the car insurance, the life insurance, and you telling him you want to pay BG&E and cable. Like, what? Fellas, don't get caught up in that financial like mess, because if that relationship ends, and especially if you have a child, that court is going to run you through the coals.
Right.
You're going to be paying high child support. You might be paying spousal support depending on how long you was with this woman. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm old school. People don't get me wrong. My grandparents were married 50 years. My grandfather went out and got the bacon. My grandmother was a homemaker. I have no problem with that dynamic. My thing is this. Don't make it, I hate the reverse psychology of it. Girls try to make it, oh, you're not a real man if you don't provide for the home. This ain't 1960. Nobody's supporting a wife, 3 kids on a plant job. Ain't no damn plant jobs no more.
No.
Most people got work 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. Like, no. So don't put yourself in a financial strain.
You know what's the crazy part about it? Is back then, the whole like men work and women stay at home, that was dictated by men. We lived in a pure matriarchy.
Yeah.
Now, like things have changed where kind of women have to say so. Everything's falling apart. My theory is that I think that men should dictate where we go from here. Because we see stuff. We're the logical being. We are the people who actually understand where we should be going. And so if a man says this is what it is, that should be what it is. It shouldn't be like, well, I think blah, 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 blah. And my mama said this. And my girlfriend said this. Because that's what we are where we are. Like, women need to know their role. They need to know their role. They need to fall in line. If a man says, you make just as much, if not more than me, because things have changed, and you got to actually contribute financially to this household, they should just fall in line. Because now they romanticize back in the day. But if back in the day was so great, they wouldn't have had a feminist movement. They wouldn't have had this whole big era of we want to work and we want to make money. You can't, we want to work and have money. And also, I want to stay at home and be a mom and I want to do this. Like, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between like what we were and what we have. And I only harp on it because it's not working. Don't talk on black shit that works. I only talk on black shit that's not working. Statistically, it's not working. Therefore, if it's not working, it's your responsibility to create a plan that does work, not to sit over here on top of a plan that doesn't work just because it's your plan.
And here's the contradiction in that. Most women will say, oh, I want the man to pay all the bills. You don't realize that men are very, like you said, they're very logical and practical. So if I am the one paying the mortgage and all this, you think we're having a discussion about what's going on in this house? I paid that mortgage. So I decide the terms of what's going on. I paid that
right now. Like,
so I
got real serious right now.
Like, I'm dead ass. Like, if they want to play them games.
You just went Ike Turner on us. Who paid these films anime.
No, not in that regard, but like listen to how crazy that sounds. You're gonna tell a man who's paying the financial bills, oh, that I'm not doing this. I ain't cooking for you. I ain't doing it. This the man that's cutting the checks.
The crazy part about the I'm not doing this is men don't have that luxury. Men don't get to say like, I don't do that no more. And all of a sudden, you ain't a man no more. But women, they don't do. I don't know what they do these days. What are they doing?
Get on social media. They get on social media.
They look fine. They look fine on the gram.
That's the filters, Charles. Don't be fooled. That's the filters.
All these women are fine.
Oh man,
all of them are fine. It is the filters though. You see them in person, like
Yeah, you don't look like 157 likes. That's not what you look like.
It's always their friends. Their friends are the people that like it and hype them up in the comments. Like,
the comments,
girl, yes, honey.
Fire signs. No, her hair looks a mess. That wig is rising.
Oh man.
But this is what people don't get. I talk the way I do on Twitter mostly because the way I talk professionally at work or every day, the nuances and the terms I use, that's for work. But on Twitter, you got to meet these people where they live. They don't understand intellectual capacity or good conversation. You got to talk to them like we still out here picking cotton in the field. Because that's their mentality sometimes.
You said y'all picking cotton on Twitter?
They be
cotton picking tweeters?
They be picking cotton. They be having mentality. They be having the slave master mentality. They be waiting for master to bring them the meat for the month on the 1st and the 15th.
They do.
That's what they be doing.
Oh,
man. All right, next tweet. This isn't as controversial. It says, stop letting people who don't know where you're going critique your steps.
You got to stop it. You got to stop letting your friends, your strangers, even your relatives. Like, I would never listen to my mother in regards to any entrepreneurial ventures I'm taking on because my mother has worked her entire life. Nothing against her. She's provided for me. She did the best she could. But what does she know about business? What does she know about finance? Well, I've seen her live paycheck to paycheck. Again, she did the best she could, but she can't tell me about this path I'm taking. She's never been there. She can't tell me about these business deals when I'm negotiating. She's never been there. And if truth be told, when it comes to banking, she called me last weekend. She wanted to know if the bank was giving her a good loan. She calls me for advice.
Right.
So you can't, not saying, and I want to make this clear, there's a difference between constructive criticism and people just critiquing you.
Mm.
You know, those people who are critiquing you every time you tell them an idea that you're tossing around. Oh, how you going to do that? Oh, I don't see that. Like, I don't think you're capable of that. I don't see how you going to move. That's because that's their limitations. That's their fears. That's their insecurities. There's their lack of skill sets. Let them live in their small minority of skills and living life. And you live in your purpose. You live in your vision. You live in whatever God, or if you believe in a spirit or whatever entity is driving you, whatever passion is stirring your spirit, live in that. As Charles always just said, like, experience will be the critiquer. The market's going to correct you. If your idea is not good, the market's going to show you.
Right.
If your concept needs to be tweaked, the market's going to let you know.
Right.
You don't need to. People need to stop trying to gain some consensus prior to actually doing. Right. You don't need 100 people to agree with you. Oh, that this is a good idea. Hell, you don't need 2 people to agree with you. You come up with the business plan. You come up with the concept. You attempt to execute it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And you know what you do if it doesn't work? You try something else.
You pivot. Yep, 100%. I think that's so key. It's like, let the market be your critic, not niggas who ain't doing shit. No. And I never use the N-word. I think, did you use the N-word on this show? I think you just inspired me to use the N-word. But I just feel like
gonna let us know.
I think it's probably the last frontier.
I was listening to
It's probably the last frontier we ever passed.
I was listening to Tyler Perry, and he made a comment that the lady asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up. And he said, I want to be a millionaire. He was like a little kid. And the lady was like, you can't be a millionaire. You black. We oppressed. The system is set up against you. And he became a fucking millionaire. But the crazy part about it to me is, first and foremost, I know that somebody has asked me something like that, and I've kind of said something along those lines. And so it's kind of like prophetic in a sense of like people who have that calling are going to get to that space. Like, if that's what you're drawn towards, you're going to get there eventually, whether you get there now or 15 years from now. He was talking about how, like, he felt like he was 35 again. Like, 35 is a starting point. And a lot of us think that, like, 30 is the end point. And so 35 is actually when you can start kind of, like, really sprinting towards your goals. But anyway, I think it was interesting because, like, a lot of times we can't let the comments from the crowd hold us back. It's more so like if you're on the field swinging the axe, that's when you're going to figure out like what you need to do better, because like you never know what you're going to run up against in business. And that's why I always tell people like to get out there and do the work to actually launch your business, get out in front of customers, approach people, bring on people, because that's how you're going to learn. That's what how you're going to pivot. And like in Tyler Perry's story, for example, like he was doing play after play and they weren't selling out, and he figured he needed to bring in gospel artists. And he started bringing in the local gospel talent, the super mega stars, and he sold out. And that just became his formula. And so at that point, once he found out what worked, all he did was repeat what worked. But he never would have found out if he just like sat there and waited on the perfect idea. And so I tell people, like, once you find your sauce, you run with your sauce. Todd Capital is not the first business I've ever ran. Todd Capital is the business that caught fire. And so I just think that you got to get out there and do the work and not listen to these ignorant people who never read a book in their life.
Right. I think we need to like wrap this up because otherwise you're gonna have like a 3-part episode here.
Man,
but,
we didn't. Jamaal, did we not ask you? I know you got to. Let me get one more from Jamaal. It's gonna be.
Yeah. He was talking about posting negative stuff about baby daddies on social media.
That stuff is so funny to me.
You using that?
Wait, say that again. Like I missed that part.
You were talking about how you don't understand how these women are on social media tweeting and posting about the baby daddies and how they doing them wrong or whatever when they could use it.
Oh yes, the one I did today. Like about them like publicizing an embarrassing mistake that you made. Like right. I don't understand how you go out of your way on a daily basis to remind us that you as an adult made the purposeful decision to have a baby with someone you did not know,
right? That
you were not with long term, and how he doesn't take care of your kid. Like, why are you repeating this on a social media platform on a daily basis?
And they do it as if it's like they weren't in the wrong at all. Like, this happened to me.
Like, were you not in the room? Like, what happened? Like, were you not there? And then what really kills me, it be the ones with 2 and 3 deadbeat baby fathers. So you got not once, but 2 and 3 times? No, it's you, beloved.
It's them. I feel like it's like that is so convenient to like mess up over and over and over again and then just find a way to blame somebody else. Like, oh, it wasn't me.
Lack of accountability.
I didn't select somebody who ain't shit. He was just ain't shit. Like, no, like you selected him. You already knew he wasn't shit.
And I don't want to hear, there's no way and this is the thing that really behooves me. For girls to be as selective as they claim to be, there's no way you're going to tell me that you did not see the signs well before you got pregnant, that this man was not father material.
Yeah, they overlooked it. In 2020, Blessed Black Man is ending the era of ain't shit in words. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
No more.
And that's what the difference. And I have to explain to them, like, most of you have only dated niggas. You've never dated a man. None of you have ever even been in the presence of a man. You've dated some drug dealers. You've dated some street niggas. You've dated some clowns for sure. You have never been in the presence of a man.
I feel like it's so unfair to make that like that conclusion, because women who have dated like drug dealers, they did it because they were chasing money, not because they were chasing somebody who was a man. And so like being a man and having a bunch of money aren't the same thing. Being a man is a list of qualities that you have. Are you this? 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 And so women overlook all that stuff, chase the guy with the money, despite his lack of moral fiber, because he's out there ruining his community to make a buck. And they realize he's not a good guy. But he was never a good guy. He was a drug dealer, bae. Like
he was a drug dealer, bae.
Oh, all right. So this is my wealth related tweet. And it says, you right now should be establishing $5,000, $10,000 positions in solid dividend paying Wall Street companies. Make sure you practice the 5-5 rule.
Yes.
The what rule?
The 5 and 5. Meaning the 5 and 5 rule means that if it's not gonna matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes thinking about it. The $10,000 in dividend paying companies, I feel like is a good foundational point for people, because I believe in a good dividends. More dividends is my favorite investment vehicle outside of compounding interest, because dividends is basically what it is. It's a company paying you for holding their shares. Like if you put $10,000 into Coca-Cola right now, at the end of the year in dividend payments, you would make $347 for nothing, just holding the shares. You ain't did nothing. That's on top.
Right.
That's not including if the stock's gone up 21% this year to date. So you've got,
you still own the shares.
Huh?
I say you get the money and you still own the shares.
Exactly. You get the money. So you've gone up 21% from the $10,000. So now what? 21% of 10,000. So now you've made roughly probably $2,100 plus the $347. That is the type of thing, and you think about that long term, and I say that because that's a good way to build wealth, because if you reinvest the dividend, you take that $347 for the year and put it back in Coca-Cola. Now you're compounding the interest. Now you're, doing all that. And you could do that over a long period of time. If people built $5,000, $10,000 positions right now, say you're 30 years old, and those companies in 30 years, each one of them, if they only went up 7% given their price, let's lose Coca-Cola again, it'll probably be worth about $900,000. I got to adjust for inflation, so let's call it like $1.2 million in 30 years. And if you have 5 positions of that, you don't need Social Security for a nest egg. You've built that. But people will say they don't have the money. They don't have the money. You get the money every year. You get it in tax returns. You get it in those vacations you take. You get it as a rental, like Charles Preserve.
People have paper, man. People have paper.
You got it.
Raphael, did you have any other tweets? I know you don't want this to go long, but this could, the Joe Rogan show is like a 2-hour show. We could do a long show. Let's just post this as is, full 2 hours, man. 10x.
Got you. Let me see what I got.
But I am going to see Joker at 9:30, and the movie theater is approximately 10 minutes from my house. That honestly, like, I was supposed to go at 6:30, but I was like, damn, I got to record the podcast, and that's at 7, but this is at 6:30. And so I looked and I found a later showing because I'm a problem solver. And I found a 9:30 showing. I was like, we'll definitely be done by then. So, all right. What else do you have? We got another 15 minutes, 25 minutes.
All right. So, I'm glad you say that because there's one thing that I really wanted to talk about tonight that's probably going to take a little while anyway. So the big thing this whole week, right? You forget what you said about people. You said something about people need to stop talking about how a personal residence is not an asset.
Yeah.
And almost everybody's like, oh, well, it's not an asset because it takes money out of your pocket. I'm like, everybody read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that's all they know.
That's all they got.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on that. Everybody read Rich Dad Poor Dad, swear they a guru now.
Yeah, that's the only thing they say. An asset takes money out of your pocket. Asset puts money in your pocket, and a liability takes money out. And that's all they got to say. And it's funny, like, I went to this event last week. This author, he wrote a book called The Black Tax. He talks about home ownership is important because that's like one of the biggest factors in the wealth gap. Home ownership. It's not just about business ownership. The biggest gap between us and, because not every white person is a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them aren't. So the biggest part of the wealth gap is really home ownership.
Right.
And that's a big part of their net worth is their home.
I was listening to Grant Cardone talk today, and he was talking about how his position is that people shouldn't own homes. And he was saying, like, he thinks that Asian people, they do the wrong thing with their homes, or they do the wrong things with their money. So they make a lot of money, but they do the wrong things. And he was saying one of the things that I think is wrong is that they buy a home. He said that if you look at the stats, the biggest amount of home owners per capita is the Asian community. And then behind that is the white community. And so his conclusion is that he thinks that they depend on their homes too much. What I gather from that, though, is that if you look at wealth and income in America, you have Asian people first and you have white people next. And so one of the things that's really important is what people have to realize is, like, they've been miseducated. And so miseducation indicates that somebody educated you incorrectly. Therefore, they gave you something that you thought was wisdom, but it was wrong. And a lot of people are being miseducated. That's my first point. The other point is that in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, he says that the middle class believe that their home is their biggest asset. Your home should not be your biggest asset. But he also says in the book that your home is not an asset, which is a contradiction, and there are a few contradictions in that book. My thing is this. It's not an asset. This beer is not an asset. It's not an asset. But I'm going to still buy it and drink it. There are certain things that people should do. It really frustrates me that people only really become intelligent in the ignorant shit. And so people become very intelligent employees. They're like, oh, if we're going to be employees, they should pay us this much, and I should get this break, and I should get this. And they don't realize, like, being an employee is a losing game, period. But you are a very informed, educated, astute employee, and you think that you're winning because you have been able to force them to give you healthcare for free. And so my thing is that, like, it frustrates me because nobody really actually becomes intelligent until it's something to be ignorant about. Owning a home is a hack. Owning a home, despite all this, it's a liability, it's this, it's that, is in a lot of ways, like you said, what separates us from them. They own their own home. And if you look back, you have redlining, you have being able to get loans, you have depressed property values. Like, real estate plays a big goal in wealth building. And a lot of people, they're just too smart for their own good. Like, I put out a tweet and I was like, he said, what did he say? He said that Mortgage is death pledge. And I was like, you know what frustrates me about like people, they get a little bit of knowledge and they used to piss me off because my uncle, he's probably the most frugal person I know. He bought a house in San Diego. He probably paid like $150 for it, which is a lot of money at that time. It's paid off now, but it's probably worth like $700,000. But he paid it off. When he bought that house, he was like, I have no idea how I'm going to make this payment of $1,200. And then he paid it off like 15 years early. Because what people don't realize is your mortgage is this, but your income does this every year. Your income is just doing that. And as it's doing that, your mortgage is going like this, because you're supposed to make more money. More than likely, you're going to make more money. So the benefits that accrue to the property owner are astronomical. The only people that want you to not own a home are the people that want to rent you one. I would respect Grant Cardone's advice if he didn't own 5,000 rental properties. Like, he's completely biased. He is selling you. Sell or be sold. It's not financial advice. I never forget. I realized this today, and people might realize I'm doing this, but like people are like, oh man, you always give so much game on your Todd investments thing. And I was like, I feel like I'm educating my consumer. And as bad as that sounds, that's what Jay Morrison does. That's what a lot of people do. I don't do that on purpose. But if I'm sharing you LLC information, if I'm giving you like tips and tricks about LLCs, I'm educating you on how to be my customer. Grant Cardone is educating you on how to be his customer, and people will run with that advice and they say, oh man, I need to actually buy rental properties as opposed to buying the home that I live in. And so I just want people to realize like there's stuff that sounds good, and this is why it's important. Like the stuff that I'm saying and the stuff that I'm telling people, like it might not resonate with you. And there's things that just don't make sense, but you got to do them anyway. And buying a home, paying off that home, it's bigger than that. Like I am the way I am because my parents were homeowners. I am the way I am because my mom bought her first home, flipped it, used all that money to pay off her student loan debt. And so you have people who are over here like, we're never going to get a student loan debt. Let's go rent and buy a luxury car and then take a vacation, and they never get out of debt, and they blame the debt. They blame the fact that like a home is not an asset instead of saying like we just did the wrong shit. So, and the last example is my grandparents, man. They bought a house a long time ago in San Diego. I'm from San Diego, but San Diego's appreciated substantially. And they had a house. It's the house that like my mom, when she moved back to California from Georgia, she lived in there. It's a big, huge house. My grandfather was in the military, very respected man. And they ended up letting that house go like 30, 40 years ago. And they rented an apartment for as long as I've ever known. They've just been living in this apartment. My grandmother passed like 20 years ago, maybe like 15 years ago. And my grandfather's just been living in that apartment. If you do the math, they might have paid like $600,000 just in rent, maybe more. And so not only did they just give away all their wealth, but they also are not leaving their kids anything to inherit.
That's deep, man.
It's frustrating because people just don't know shit, and they learn a little bit of shit. They read this book and like, home's not an asset. Right. Oh, I'm so smart. It's not. You think it's an asset, but it's not. I'm gonna rub it in your face, and then like they just set everybody back.
They really do, and it's funny you say that because you read probably just as much, if not more, than me. And I've read books. Some of my best favorite books have been written by Robert E. Greene, who wrote the Art of 33 Strategies of War, The Art of Seduction, the
Mastery,
48 Laws of Power, right? 48 Laws of Power. And of course, I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it blows me because I was reading those books back in high school, back in 2003. Motherfuckers have just picked them up in the last 5-6 years, and all of a sudden they think they knowledgeable. You late on game, baby. Them books is 15 years old. You late. You late on game. And they think they know a little bit because they've read the book, but the accumulation,
read one book.
The reading of the book is not the same as accumulating and understanding the intellectual capacity in it.
The understanding piece.
It's not the same thing. Just because you've read Greene's book on 48 Laws of Power, don't mean you understand what the hell he was talking about. You think you can throw me out a little passage about Aristotle, Alexander, and what Green was talking about. You think you understand strategy? You think you understand positioning and playing your role? You read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you all of a sudden understand real estate. No. You just read a book. Your mind found some trendy words that it liked. A new word that I hate motherfuckers they using now, because I be talking about people being actually leveraged. Every time I turn around, a motherfucker's using the word leverage and they're using it wrong. They are using it wrong.
They're miseducating people. I feel like that it's like it's really it's kind of like when I talk about how like African American men have been pushed out of the household, which has then allowed the community to degrade. It's like I'm gonna tell you some stuff that you might not see, you might not understand, but it's right. Mm-hmm. And buying a house and owning a house and paying off your house, you don't understand it because you've been fed by Kiyosaki that it's a liability. But what I'm telling you is right. And it's not just because I've read the books, because like you said, I've read the books. I've also listened to the podcast. I've also been around people who have been doing it at a high level. And so like, I'm not just like reading a passage and then giving you my advice. Like, this is a bunch of stuff working together. I just stay in my spot. I'm not over here. I'll never forget, I had a necktie company and somebody's like, are you into fashion? I was like, I'm actually not into fashion. I don't really care about fashion. And that's why I just stopped doing that altogether. I was like, that's not my lane. My lane is finance, and that's all I do is finance. If I was not talking to you guys, I'd be watching a podcast on finance right now, or reading a book on finance, or reading a book on business. And so like when I speak, or when Jamaal speaks, when Raphael speak, we're not just like telling you what our grandpa told you, because like I'm just people be talking too much, man. They don't know too much.
Bro, what did I say? I said platforms like Twitter have given people a avenue to speak when otherwise no one would be listening. Like, you really, it's what I like to call keyboard courage. People be having a lot of courage behind them keyboards. A lot of ignorant stuff behind them keyboards, and like I tell people all the time, I agree with you. All I know is finance and business and politics. That's all I know. That's my field. That's my wheelhouse. So when I speak to you about that, trust and believe. I have some statistics behind it. I have some knowledge behind it. I have some experience behind it. So you can't get educated by Barnes & Noble. I'm sorry. I recommend that you go get a book, yes. But Barnes & Noble ain't going to give you all this information. They're going to give you a framework to start, but you got to implement this stuff. Right. You got to practice it. Y'all out here throwing around leverage. You wouldn't know leverage it hit you in the face. Like, you really don't know what leverage is.
The book just sets you up to take action. And so, like, once you take the action, then you really get that real life wisdom. It's kind of like we didn't know really what real estate pertained until we started doing real estate. But when we like read the books, I read so many books on real estate. Like, when you just read the books, like, you don't really get there. Anyway, I think we've gone a long time. It's been like an hour and 50 minutes. I can't believe it's gone that long.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say is that somebody made a comment. They're like, "Man, that episode that you did with Jamaal was like my favorite episode." So I was like, "We gotta get Jamaal."
That was me.
Back. Oh, see, it's lit.
That was me.
It goes full circle.
Hey, man.
It goes.
I try to live in my authentic.
The mystery episode.
That's one thing I'm gonna tell people is like how I am now. As I acquire more money and assets, is how I'm going to be. I want people to see that you can still be you and reach those levels. People are like, yo, people ask me all the time, like, how are you so ratchet and your career keep taking off? Because I can be in different spaces. I can do different things. So when people give me compliments like that, I appreciate it because I want people to see that, I'm just an ordinary dude. I just happen to have a college education in finance. That's it. Like, that's all that happened in life.
I'm not an ordinary dude. JT said,
"No, you Todd Millie. No, you Todd Billy now. You Todd Billy now.
Todd Billy.
Todd Billy now.
I'm gonna call those things that be not as though they were. This is episode 19, I think.
Yep, 19.
I appreciate y'all having me, man.
Shout out to the sponsors. partners, friends, Tasha Go to Stay, Erica Classic Klein Williams, Hood Estates, Terry, who is launching her new cohort, Bless a Black Man. Check us out on Instagram at Blackwell Tweet Talks, at Todd Investments, at Raphael Husbands, at Todd Millionaire, at _ Jamaal Vetose.
Thank you.
Underscore that before, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Any last on Twitter? Yeah, of course on Twitter at Todd Billy, BILI, at Leo Graham Prince, at Work Money Life on Twitter. CapitalTodd.com.
Man.
Come to Todd Capital.
Come to Todd Capital and some shit.
Yeah. Business and Wealth for the Team Sport. That's more like the slogan for the Todd Millionaire podcast, but it still applies. It's important. We got to say it.
My last little tidbit is stop asking questions and start taking actions. A lot of y'all keep jumping in my DMs asking about investing. Open up yourself a E-Trade, American TD Ameritrade, Skytrade. Open yourself up an account. Put $1,000 in there. Mm-hmm. Play with the system.
Yep. You'll learn more by losing than you will by watching. This is episode number 19. Todd Millie, Raphael Husband, Jamaal Vetose. Signing off.
We out.
Sweet Talks.
The sauce.
19. We are out.
It's lit.
The sauce.